already. Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, friends. It's Friday afternoon, and we are back with another episode of our Forefront of Future Frontiers, the medical webinar series. Started in May 2020, we have been doing this webinar on every week almost. And this is the 79th consecutive episode which we are hosting. And this is a theme-based webinar series. The current theme is looking beyond quality assurance, how we can go towards total quality management system. So when we look at quality in research, quality, then we need to think about how to ensure that the findings of research are also communicated. So this is a topic which we have been thinking about for quite some time. What is this open access movement and how it is going to help researchers to communicate their findings to the community, and how it will help, more importantly, for the faculty, for the common man to access what is current in literature. So we have found a fantastic research person for this particular talk. We have with us Professor Bala Bhaskar, who is the editor of Rajiv Gandhi University Journal of Health Sciences, and he is going to tell us about open access publications. What do they mean? To give the welcome address and to introduce the speaker, I call upon our Dean, Professor Kutur. Sir, the stage is yours.
Yeah. Very good afternoon to all of you over here. Professor Bala Bhaskar, today's speaker, and all the esteemed participants in the audience. And I could see some of my anesthesia friends, Shripad, and some others, and my colleagues, students. Indeed, I am very happy on this occasion to welcome, doubly happy in the sense of one of my good friend is speaking on a right appropriate topic. And second thing is we are going one more episode nearer our ardent dream of reaching number 100 centenary of the FFF webinar. In fact, we are in the process of our NAC accreditation, and I was very happy. This will be one of the best practices of AVMC in existence now for the past more than 2 years, and with a definite outcome. The outcome of putting our Erpadi Medical College on the national and international map of science. So that is the job this good practice has given us at the end of this more than 2 years. And just for the information, on behalf of our speaker today, Bala Bhaskar, this platform has been shared by eminent academicians, researchers, scientists, and many more persons. You will be happy, and I think you participated. Gordon Kayat, the pioneer of evidence-based medicine, also was there for the 50th Golden Jubilee celebration of this webinar. And this, I said doubly happy. Another thing is this publication. It is, I can say, I'm also a little inclined towards that. And of course, Dr. Bala Bhaskar succeeded me as an editor of the prestigious Indian Journal of Anaesthesia, which is a PubMed index journal. And even though there has been a gap of only 10 years between him and me, I get distinctly classified as one old-timer before the open access publication came in. And when he took over after 2 or 3 terms, then that time the open access publication had come. And I recollect my days. It's quite appropriate to recollect on this time when I took over the journal in 1999-2000. That time this open access publication was not there at all. And I was very struggling to get our Indian Journal of Anaesthesia indexed in the PubMed. And from India, hardly 1 or 2 journals. One was the Indian Journal of Medical Association, JIMA, Journal of the Indian Medical Association. Another one was this JAPI, Journal of the Association of Physicians of India, then Journal of Urology. These are hardly few journals you can count on fingers who were indexed with the Index Medicus or the National Library of Medicine, PubMed, or whatever it is. And I remember I was honestly, ardently trying to make efforts to make our Indian Journal of Anaesthesia indexed. And this indexing committee used to meet only twice or thrice a year. There never used to be any specialists in that. And there was a kind of a stepmother attitude towards the journals that are getting published from this underdeveloped or low income group. That kind of a monopoly was there. In fact, I must at this point of time recollect fondly with our connections with the University of Illinois. George Bordas was one of the members of that. He used to come to Belgaum. Through him, we tried sincerely at times. And that time, when episode happened, one of the journal which was getting published from Europe, before the first issue was published, that journal got indexed in the PubMed. That was the one we made an issue. Then I wrote. This is a story. Why I am telling is that time, how were the days when open access publication was not there. And I remember even another 1 or 2 minutes, I must not miss this opportunity. I remember of my days, PG days, when I was writing my dissertation way back in 1978, and there was nothing. And no internet. I remember my professor, she sent me to Delhi AIMS library, and I traveled to Mumbai for this Grand Medical College library. Then to get that to yearbooks. Yearbook of Anaesthesia was the only one which was giving the updated articles. That to one paragraph may or may not have been there. That was the status. That means accessibility to literature was not uniform. It varies from person to person. And now also person to person, on the same person on different types of time. What is available to me in office may not be at home. That kind of a thing. But now this accessibility to literature is like a human right, one of the human rights. That kind of awareness has come. And two things have been responsible for that, for this open access publication, which came into existence somewhere in the early part of 2000, 2002 or 3. Probably, hopefully, a couple of slides, Professor Bhaskar will be telling about when the early history of open access publications. And when we say this open access publication, there are two things must be known. One is, of course, these are the two forces which have made the open publication no looking back kind of a thing. In the sense, one is the honest desire of a researcher to let know his research findings to the public without expecting any money. That is one attitude has to be there. Then second thing is the internet came, explosion of information and communication technology into every field, including this publication field. These two factors jointly responsible for the birth of the open access publication. Okay, and it is needless to mention that this publication was a subscribed publication, and the publishers were making many money. Whenever I remember, it will be any article give $19.95. Our research was to stop at that point of time. So that was the thing. And of course, our Indian Medicus, Medlar Center, they also have their own electronic biomedical database. So the things have changed dramatically. Of course, during the COVID times, accessibility to scientific literature was opened by all even known publishers across the globe. And last part I must say is about the open access. Sci-Hub, many of us know. Sci-Hub is a shadow library which is got almost 95% of the scientific publish is there on the Sci-Hub website. That crow sitting, you will get you anything on the earth except God. That kind of a thing. That is also a main reason for this open access publication. These are some of the, I can say, it is a very significant development in the area of publication, this open access publication, wherein dissemination of the findings of the scientific research takes place widely. That's what the researcher wants. So of course, we all know that this is not a platform to say that so many cases against Sci-Hub, they are changing the domain day by day. Those kind of things are there. These are some of the thoughts that come to my mind. How in a matter of some 1 or 2 decades, everything has changed. And now it is my duty to introduce Dr. Bala Bhaskar, who happens to be my good friend for the past almost more than 2-3 decades. He is a professor of Anaesthesiology in Bellary, and he is the chief editor, or he was the chief editor of Indian Journal of Anaesthesia. And during his time, he is a very computer technical savvy person. I remember the website of Karnataka Anaesthesia, I'll say Karnataka State, under his presidentship and his secretaryship, he revolutionized that. Then, of course, he went to the national platform, he became the editor, then he became the president of the ISA, Indian Society of Anesthesia, national level, brought in so many There are changes in that. 1 second, slide is not changing.
Can you make it slide
Yeah.
show, sir?
Yeah. Computer sometimes listens, sometimes it becomes disobedient. That is the problem. Okay. So, and he is presently the member of the publication board of the World Federation of Society of Anaesthesiologists. And I already told about his credentials as a president. He brought me many changes, many revolutionary ideas during his presidentship, during his editorship, and the journal. During that time, only open access publication came. Indian Journal of Anaesthesia got indexed in the Biomed Central or the PubMed Central. Then this Public Library of Science, that came in a big way. So many things are there wherein a lot of facilitation for the researchers. And he is a chief coordinator for many of the guidelines. ISA, Indian Society of Anaesthesiologists, has been putting out so many guidelines. And he has been the driving force for many of them. And he has taken over the journal of our prestigious university, the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. The editor of that, I'm sure certainly it is going to go to higher levels with this one. And he has, of course, he worked as the editor of the Indian Journal of Anaesthesia. He has got a very well-known person, and he's this publication workshop, research methodology workshop, statistics workshop on the national platform are very popular across the country. In fact, yesterday, Professor Mahalakshmi was telling the statistics one workshop is he tells it in such a wonderful way. That's how the Dr. Bala Bhaskar is, and he will be sharing his experience as an author, as an editor, as the policymaker, and as a teacher about this very important, significant development or far-reaching development that has taken place in the world of publication, that is open access publication. Thank you very much for giving me. I took a little more time to share on the thought. I already confessed that it is clearer. Mahalakshmi, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we hand over to Dr. Bala Bhaskar and listen to him, a few announcements for the participants. Please keep yourselves muted so that the audio quality is good for everyone. And you can see this program is being live streamed and recorded for future academic use. Over to you, Dr. Bala Bhaskar. I have enabled screen sharing for you. The stage is yours. And we request you to park some time for the question and answer session also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you see the video? Can you see the screen, madam?
Not yet, sir. Yeah, yes. It is coming now, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So good afternoon, and had extremes of compliments from Kotur sir here. Thanks a lot, sir. So I don't know how much is due really, but nice to hear you online after a long time. Thanks to the AVM, of course, sir is the lead in academics as a dean here. Thank you, sir, and Dr. Mahalakshmi, who is in charge of all this scientific session, Dr. Vishnu and all the faculty who are joined this program today. And as sir was mentioning, especially when we were part of the system, so not that I say I'm retired already, but I have also seen the moments when we had some difficulty in the research and publications. So if you can see this cartoon, it's so difficult to get our research published, especially those days, at least about 20 years ago and before that. It was a manual system. Majority of the times we didn't have the support of the computers and everything, and even the submission was the manual through post, review and editing was through the post only. So it was a difficult time. And the second difficult aspect was whenever we wanted some sort of articles to be accessed for us to take forward the research and to publish it, we had a lot of difficulties because the journals were costly. So that was the second aspect. Third aspect was even our own institutions would not have all the journals. So we will go in search of institutions where it is available and try to contact people. So those were the days, especially when we talk about the publication. So there was limited access to journals. Again, as just I'm repeating, not able to pay for subscriptions. These were the problems with the so-called traditional system of publications. And the traditional the modality, just to remind their colleagues, was submission was generally free, was the problem. Here, the publication was free. And Indian conditions, definitely, full access to the article would be possible only if you paid a subscription fee, because majority of the standard journals were Western journals only, and we have to pay per article. So this was a difficulty when you wanted to access the articles also about 20 years ago. And the copyright of the research articles would always rest with the publisher. It was not allowed to be given to the author himself, because based upon the copyright transfer agreement. So the problem was, therefore, the author's ability to reuse a published research himself was in trouble. So those were the peak days of control. Just like we talk about, now India becoming a market-oriented economy, and before that there are a lot of controls. So similar was the system in publication also, and there was long waiting period for our articles to get accepted, if at all they were going to be accepted. So these were the problems those days. And in fact, as I said, it was difficult to access them, and 75% of the published articles were not directly accessible at all those days, because it was such a tight traditional modality. What would be the consequences? For the author, the research and research output potential are affected. Even the metrics of the researcher would suffer, because he is not able to collect the evidences, and he is not able to propagate and even tell his friends that my article is published and this is what it is, you please see. That was not happening. And even after publication, citation was affected, because readers could not access the article. So these were the multiple problems related to the traditional modality of publication. And it was dominated by many of the Western publishing houses. We know about Wiley, we know about Springer, we know about Wolters Kluwer. So there were huge publishing companies, billions of dollars. If you look at the turnover, they have got turnover between 10 to around 30 billion US dollars, even at this point of time. And when I made a literature search, I found that between 2010 to 2013, they had the highest profit margins also, between 36 to 40%, surpassing the profit margins of even Apple, Google, and Amazon. So that was the level of earnings for the huge publishing houses. So it was, a golden opportunity for them. Why would they give up? So that was the status. In fact, it was aptly summarized by Adrian Sutton, a physicist at Imperial College, who says, scientists are all slaves to publishers. What other industry receives its raw materials from its customers, gets those same customers to carry out the quality control of those materials, and then sells the same materials back to the customers at a vastly inflated price. So this is very true and apt statement with respect to the publishing those days. And of course, we had problems, because we wanted to publish, but we are not able to publish. There was a lot of demand and supply imbalance those days. The biggest advantage, which in fact makes us to talk about what is known as open access, is the advent of internet. So the advent of internet was the one which made the processing of the articles also faster, and more journals could be launched. And gradually, not just the online system, there were online submission platforms, softwares which are also developed. This being the case, the prestigious journals did not respond beneficially when we talk in terms of open access. So that was the problem for, again, many years, even after advent of internet. So this resulted in depriving the spread of scientific knowledge, and even depriving the society of the benefits of research. So it would not help the government policies also, because the output of research is not brought to the public domain as much as is desired. So what is the context now? Now the answer should have been and should be open access. So what I will do in the next few slides is talk about this open access movement against the traditional methods of publication and research. So when I start, I would like to say that there are at least about 5 to 6 professional groupings which initiated this movement for open access. The pioneer was the Budapest Open Initiative. So in fact, it was the earliest one. They started in February 2002. Then they had an update the 10th year and 15th year during 2012 and 2017. In fact, another update is expected by February 14, 2022, in a few days from now. So they were the pioneers, and of course, subsequently we had other statements by various groups, including what is known as a Bethesda statement on open access publishing. We had the Berlin Declaration on open access to knowledge. Then we had the Cape Town Open Education Declaration, which was again brought up in 2008, and the Hague Declaration on Knowledge Discovery in the Digital Age. It was in 2015. And in fact, the Cape Town group had a 10th anniversary revision also, which was again brought up in 2017. So these were the important bodies which have talked about the importance of open access and trying to popularize open access. So what I would be picking up is mainly from the Budapest initiative with respect to the definition of open access. So as I said, they were the first to define open access, and that group consisted of various important stakeholders. It had many bodies, professional bodies, individual researchers, and very nice to know some open access publishers actively. They decided to have to join the group. Libraries, universities from different nations joined this group, and they were able to get this initiative started. So this is a very nice preamble which they have given with respect to the open access. This is about an old tradition and a new technology which have converged to make possible an unprecedented public good. So this is a very beautiful preamble there. The old tradition here refers to the willingness of scientists and scholars to publish the fruits of their research in scholarly journals without payment for the sake of inquiry and knowledge. The new technology is the internet. Okay, so it was there already. All of us would want to share our knowledge, but we didn't have an opening, a platform that was provided by the internet. And for the sake of public good. Public good is obvious. We want the worldwide distribution of the peer-reviewed journal literature, and it is completely free with unrestricted access to everybody. So the Budapest Declaration has given important strategies related to the research part, how to enrich education and share the learning of the rich with the poor and poor with the rich. So this is the most important part I just thought, especially people from middle and lower income countries and poor countries, we would have better options with open access. So ultimately the Budapest Open Access Initiative calls on all the interested institutions and individuals to help open up the access to the rest of this literature and remove the barriers, especially the price barriers that stand in the way. So open access therefore means free availability on public internet for any user to read, download, copy, distribute, print, search, or even link to the full text of these articles. You can crawl them for indexing, pass them as data to software, or use them for any other lawful purposes. So this is the perfect statement of open access. And most important is second part, without financial, legal, or technical barriers. And the only possible role for copyright, they state, should be to give the authors control over the integrity of their work and the right to be properly acknowledged and cited. So this is an important part of the open access definition. So how to achieve the open access status? In fact, as Dr. Kotur sir was talking, we have had our own journals for different professional bodies in India. For example, our own body, from the Indian Society of Anaesthesiologists, we had our journal from 1953 onwards. So if you imagine, it's more than 70 years with respect to their publication. And our association is continuing to support the publication, and everything is free. So we can, submission is free, publication is free, access is free, and anybody from any part of the world can do anything. So in fact, this is somewhat also referred to as a platinum open access or a sponsored open access. And in fact, the IMA, for example, has got its own journal in India, and you have got various universities have got their journal. They all have this particular modality, which has been running for many decades together. But worldwide, especially when we talk about the Western countries, the United States, this has not been the scenario. So what has happened post the traditional modality was the advent of two different subdivisions. One is called as the gold open access and the second one is called the green open access. So what is this gold open access? Gold open access is the status when the author publishes in an online open access journal and he pays a article processing charge for the immediate access by anybody of the journal version of the article. Journal version of the article is what is going to be published, for example, the PDF of the article or whatever. So this is the version that is accessible, and if he is going to pay some money for the article processing, yes, it is available immediately. But there is also some optional choice by the publishers to authors, the hybrid variety. And there is no need for self-archiving because the service for the archiving and the repository is provided by the journal itself. And therefore, there is no embargo period. So what is important is you pay something here. That's the advantage. So key advantage is freely accessible right from the moment of first publication. Wide-ranging exploitative rights are available. But one of the things is you have to pay. So one example I can give is the quotation from the Biomed Central and the PLOS, which are the most important open access publications now. The prices are upwards of $1,350 per article. And if you have seen the open access articles which are sprouted in India, the rates range from 5,000 to 50,000 now, based upon the timing of the publication. Then what is this green open access? Green open access is, there is a slight difference. The author would again publish in any of these open access journals, so-called open access journals, but he self-archives a copy in a free accessible repository. Like it is outside of the journal repository where it is being published. So it could be within the university or an online or central repository, or central repository means we have got the PubMed Central or DOAJ where it can go and where repositories can be retrieved by people. But there are some principles or policies of the publication industry itself. There is some amount of embargo period here. So it depends between the various journals. So they will say up to 6 months, this article will not be released free for free access, or it could be for 12 months. So majority of the journals, it is between 6 to 12 months only. So there is one problem here is there is some restriction as per copyright law. So when we are indeed using the green open access, there is definitely not much of a problem, but you have to see the copyright application there and what is entered there, and be ready for some sort of embargo period in terms of accessibility. So these are different formats which are not practical, but if you can see the green open access and the gold open access I was talking about, the diamond one or the platinum one, which is the one which was there and it is there in some of the Indian publications even now. So when somebody is submitting, they can decide by themselves whether they want to submit to a green open access journal or a gold open access journal. Both of them are otherwise okay, except for the payment and with respect to the embargo period for open access. So this is the definition wise what could happen to the open access modalities. But is there some role for the institutions themselves with respect to contributing to the open access movement? For example, the Budapest Open Access Initiative recommendation says that ideally this has to happen. Every institution of higher education should allow peer-reviewed versions of all future articles, all research articles by the faculty members shall be deposited in the institution's designated repository, ideally before acceptance, but not after data publication. Right. So, for example, if it is AVMC is there, AVMC should create its own repository and keep all the articles just before acceptance there also. Of course, you can give the faculty the freedom to submit to any journal and encourage ideally to submit to open access journals. And even the future thesis and dissertations which are happening in the institution, they have to be first deposited in the institution's open access repository. And one more thing they can do is help authors pay reasonable publication fees at fee-based open access journals. As I told you, we got the fee-based journals, for example, the gold open access journals, where you have to pay the APC, the article processing charges, so that can be paid by the institution itself. So this is the one which can help in promoting open access publication. And what more should be done? The scholar should have access to the repository. That's more important. So what we can do is, in addition, have what I'm trying to talk about is other repositories also. So what the institution can do is have a consortium of open access repositories, can have an outsourced repository service, or they can have some arrangement of transferability among the repositories, and even the author himself or herself can transfer the deposition from one repository to other repository. And one more policy initiative that can be thought about by the institutions is stopping of subscription. So all of us know we are paying now, each of the institutions, I expect at least lakhs of rupees. It could be from 10 to 20 lakhs for an average institution you spend annually for the various journals. So what can be done is, if we stop the subscription, we can support only open access peer-reviewed journals. So what we'll do, we will save the money. That money can be diverted for supporting the authors from our own institution to submit them to smaller journals also, even local language journals and journals in smaller countries. And you can support the development and maintenance of the tools, directories, and resources for progress and sustainability of open access, and support your own repository software or journal management systems or directories and other things. And you can harvest references, exchange the metadata, and have interoperability with other repositories and from other publishers. So this is the one which can be done after stopping the subscription. And we have got a lot of funding, especially in the Western countries, for various research. So we can also involve the funding agencies to see that they support the open access movement. What can be done, again, based upon the Budapest recommendation, is these funding agencies can have the funded article, means the research which they have funded. They can see that this article and the metadata related to that article are deposited in a repository separate from the publisher himself, and encourage the authors to submit to open access journals only. And apart from the sponsoring of the research, they have to cover the cost of the article, the processing charges, APC, for all the journals. Only thing is, some of the sponsors, the funders, basically it will be like a pioneering effort from them. They would not want them to be open access immediately, but their interests, like embargo for about 6 months, can be allowed till the article is open to everybody to see. And even government can do something within the government. So imagine the government has got some scientific work going on in different institutions affiliated to the government. Our government itself is sponsoring or funding some of the researchers. What it can do is, at the national level, it has to develop a provision to deposit all this research into its own repository. It could be open access option. And it can also happen at the level of the universities or even at the National Medical Council. We can deposit all the research articles in their repository, and this can be considered for promotion, tenure, or other forms of internal assessment and review also. You know that some of, not all the universities, many of the universities have got, of course, their own database. They have got the thesis and dissertation copies, which are also part of the university repository. But what I would suggest is, this can also be considered for promotions when other researchers are conducted by faculty also, with respect to appointment also, and for any sort of internal assessment and review. So I was talking about the copyright aspects. So traditional, the journal publication, definitely there are issues related to the copyrights. All of us know that was very tight and it was preventing open access, and even the submission was difficult. But with respect to the open access, with respect to the green open access model, I told you about the green access model, where we have certain level of embargo also, and there is some copyright issue. So what you have to understand is some of the legalities related to that. Basically, there is one common software or an agency which gives services to majority of the journals, scientific journals across the world. It is the Creative Commons group, which is shortened as CC-BY, or there are equivalent licenses are also available, which provide the optimal license for the publication, distribution, use, and reuse of scholarly work. So we can make direct deposits into the repositories to be encouraged for open licenses, preferably through this platform. So what is the advantage of this is, this Creative Commons agency or the platform provides a balanced setting within the traditional all rights reserved copyright law, and various levels are created within the copyright definitions. For example, there will be a baseline copyright with minimal terms and conditions on behalf of the publisher or on behalf of the author. And the most minimum, as we are telling, is a gold open access. But for that, we have to have a APC or the fees to be paid. But for the green variety, we have to basically allow for some embargo period. So even that part can be entered in the copyright based upon the Creative Commons various principles which are available online also. What is the advantage here is, it will help the creators to get credit and retain the copyright while allowing others to copy, distribute, and make some uses of their own work, and at least non-commercially. When I say creators here, it is now the authors. So post the open access movement, now the copyright majority of the times in majority of the journals across the world now has shifted to the author rather than the publisher himself. And this licensing system would work and last as long as the copyright laws based upon what you are saying. For example, I have taken this is an extract from the Indian Journal of Anaesthesia website. This is one which talks about the open access publication and Creative Commons licensing. So what is the statement here? This says this is an open access journal and articles are distributed under the terms of the Creative Commons attribution, non-commercial share alike 4 license, and it allows others to remix, tweak, and build upon the work non-commercially. So one important phrase continuously seen is non-commercial. So as long as it is non-commercial, it is allowed to be shared without any problem. And secondly, it provides for long-term digital preservation. Preservation is providing for the repository for the articles. In fact, the Wolters Kluwer itself will maintain this repository, and beyond Wolters Kluwer, there are libraries in the world where there is another repository services which is availed by the publisher. So in fact, if something happens to the Wolters Kluwer publication, the repository will be intact with another agency, which is an outsourced second level of protection for the repository or the articles from the publisher. So these are very important in terms of protecting the articles in the various repositories. So what are the advantages of open access publication overall? So if you compare to the traditional approach, as I told in the beginning, majority of them are very high impact journals and are very prestigious. But that is the main advantage. What problem was, as I told, it was we had to subscribe to the journals, or if you want to see the full text of the articles, you have to pay per download. Of course, the author cost was not there, but accessibility of the article was therefore totally limited because you have to pay for it. And if you are a researcher, if you want to write an article for acceptance, it will take long time for acceptance. So these were the problems with respect to the traditional journals, except that they had a high impact factor. Whereas the open access journals, availability is open, article processing charge is there for some of the models, but it is easily accessible. There is a speedy publication. But there are gray areas for both the groups also. Even some of the traditionally published articles, journals, basically there could be some poor impact factor in indexing. That's also possible. They are still present now also. And majority of the open access journals, even at this point of time, unfortunately, they have got lower impact factor, and that has led to the advent of predatory journals. So a little bit about the predatory journals I will talk about later in the presentation. So in fact, this is a statistical data which says that there is an increase in the open access publication between 2012 to 2016. So the overall increase has been between 12 to 15% for pure open access, and delayed open access is something related to the hybrid, which is about 2 to 2.2%. So overall, there has been an increase for about 4 years, but I didn't have data beyond 2016 related to the absolute numbers, but I've got related data which I'll be discussing later. So further advantages are always there. Apart from all this ease of access and fast processing and other things, the reader, as I told already, has got immediate access to the full text of the publisher's website. the author has got the option of publishing in a reputed online journal, open access journal, which provides versatility and visibility. There are very good open access articles in terms of the quality and their visibility and versatility. It's very good now. And researcher gets higher research impact through citation accounts. So all of us have got smartphones nowadays, and the youngsters are also very adept in using the smartphones. So you can just click on any article and your own article might pop up as a citation. So there is a greater citation for the articles which are published in open access. Then higher media coverage also. If you can see, even in regular, especially if you are seeing the COVID season, whatever small research it has got published, any type of journal immediately gets covered in the social media, and it's more likely to be shared in the social media like Twitter than Facebook and Mendeley. In fact, the open access articles are said to receive nearly double the number of tweets and Mendeley reads compared to the subscription articles. So overall, they have also contributed to the enhancing the culture of scientific education and literacy, and it can definitely have a direct impact on the public policy because the government also picks up the outcomes of the research from scholarly journals. And I said there is a lot of citation advantages. So this is one example of where I got the data related to the radiology. So what has been found was publications in open access journals were found to be associated with higher citations, higher download, and higher sharing as compared to the traditional modes. And this is even the impact factor. If you can see, the open access articles are shared better, citations become more, and the impact factor of the journals have also gone up. So if you can see on the left side of this table, so all these journals are open access journals. So you've got the Biomed Central related, Biomed Central is a purely open access group. There are multiple journals which have picked up the impact factor so much, and there are at least about 12 to 15 journals here. So impact factor by 2014 was this much, and I expect this to have gone up further in the last 7 years. But there has been one comment by the Budapest Open Access Initiative. There has been very critical discussion about how the traditional metrics are being applied in the modern practice. They say there is a lot of bias, there is a lot of misinterpretation related to the metrics. They say we can even discourage the use of journal impact factors as surrogates for quality of the journals, articles, or authors. And in fact, for open access journals, we can have a more transparent alternate metrics, which are simplistic, reliable, and entirely open for use. And they have become radical. The radical means, if you look at the last statement, we have to even try of using article level metrics, not journal level metrics. So don't worry about the journal. If your article is quality is good, of course, it is assured by many of the open access journals nowadays. And number two, in terms of the metrics, including the social media metrics, if it is good, why we should not accept those articles in terms of their quality? But still, unfortunately, this cannot be realized early because I told you, because of the explosion in the online, the open access journals online nowadays, some of these journals have obtained the services of some unknown agencies and software for creating some metrics. We would not have heard about any of these metrics, but new metrics phrases crop up. So this is a problem because of the new journals. And before we think about publishing in an open access journal, nowadays we have got journal selection websites also, which are available in the internet. If you just click, you'll get, and you can go inside and you can also get details about the open access journals with respect to their quality also. So this is one option that is available. So what about the participation of the publishing houses, the industrial houses, with respect to the open access? So one thing is, initially when open access journals were started, there were a lot of problems. People were very skeptic. They were telling that how good it would be. Even Medical Council of India at that point of time never recognized the online journals for the various appointments and promotions. So we were at that time, there was a lot of discussion talking about so much online journals or open access journals which had high quality. So those were the days, but luckily now National Medical Council has recognized online journals also. So, and there were initially indexation issues, and even with respect to scientific prestige, there was a lot of problem as compared to the traditional approaches. And the early publications and the publisher were criticized as money hungry, that they are accepting all the articles irrespective of the scientific quality. But again, some of these publishers would say that no, because we want more articles to sustain, otherwise we don't have money. So this was the stage initially. And of course, it led to the development of a lot of predatory journals in all the fields across the spectrum in the science in the world. But luckily, there is good progress now. In fact, we have got at least 2 pure open access publishers, big time publishers, and even the major established publishers have joined the race because they are probably convinced that it is good and it is gaining repute gradually. And they are also getting indexed in quality databases almost as equal to the traditional journals. And the quality of peer review, of course, is still of concern in some of these journals. And on the opposite end, there is a very rigorous review in some of the open access journals as compared to the traditional journals. Now, these are the 2 publishing houses which are actually the pioneers in pure open access publication, the Biomed Central and the PLOS. In fact, they have taken the open access publishing ecosystem by storm now. But the delay, what I can say is some delay and some confusion was also with respect to the cost for the publishers when they publish, whether it is PLOS or Biomed Central or the established ones like Wolters Kluwer or Springer or Wiley. Normally, the income for these publications would be, if it is open access, definitely the paper published from the author would be there. It is post acceptance, but they mainly depended upon subscriptions for their sustenance. And what was expenditure? Expenditure was for the online system of submission, then peer review and editing and proofreading, plus some security licensing and plagiarism check. And they have to pay their employees because they would employ a lot of individuals in different centers across the world. But ultimately, when we compare the income versus expenditure, I told you in a few slides ago, they earned in billions, especially the bigger ones have earned money in billions of dollars. And that's the place where they don't have any problem. And there is the problem only for new entries in the particular field. In fact, if you have an open access and an online system, the overall costs are actually very low as compared to the traditional forms of dissemination, and you can save money. So this money which is saved can be used for promoting dissemination of the journal itself and provide concessions to the authors. So this is what can be done by the various publishers. And they can go further. So why don't we expect, why can't we accept, why we should not accept a Springer or Wolters Kluwer or Wiley or Elsevier? Why should not they waive the article processing charges for the lower and middle income countries? Why they should not provide discount to lower and middle income countries? Okay, and announce that these are the ones they are doing. So these are some of the things that can be done by the big time publishers. So as I told you, the big time publishers are also tasting success with respect to the open access. They have started the open access, and majority of them give basically the gold and green hybrid choices, and the embargo could be between 6 to 12 months. So that's okay. But you look at the right side, Nature. So Nature, just about a year ago, released about 32 journals, all open access. It was a very good news. But problem is, you look at the second part, the cost. The cost is about $11,390 per open access paper. So it is the costliest among all the open access offers. And plus they have got a 6 months embargo on the others. So this is the one. They have joined the race, but it is definitely not economical for countries like India to have even the APC to be paid for open access. So when you come to the Indian scenario, I told you already, we have still the continued platinum or sponsored open access models of various journals. And we have the universities which provide the repositories, and the majority of our existing journals are basically indexed in the directory of open access journals and PubMed Central. But still, we have got the risk of low quality and predatory journals which are there in Indian scenario. So if you look at the open access publishing in India, so gradually it has increased over the years. If you start from 2003 and come to 2019, this data is up to 2019. if you can see, there was a spurt of open access journals which are part of DOHA, Indexing Directory of Open Access Journal. Between 2016 to 2018, it was a peak of indexing with some core agencies from NMC or the Medical Council of India. So a lot of players entered into the field. And the second one gives 10 years periods wherein the publications were started and they became indexed with PubMed Central. PubMed Central is an open access system. So before 1990 till 2010 to 2019. So in the last area, last bar diagram, you can see the number of journals which have been part of PubMed Central has gone up significantly. It is nearly 65 in 2019. So biggest negative propaganda for against the open access journals have been about the predatory journals. So all of us have known, have some of our colleagues have also deliberately or accidentally fallen prey to these predatory journals. By definition, it says it is preying on academicians for financial profit via authorship processing charges for open access articles without meeting the scholarly publishing standards. They offer rapid publishing and but there is poor peer review. They depend upon business model with collection of all these charges from the authors, and they have got fast publication. Somebody will say, "You give me 5,000 or 10,000, I'll publish in 1 week, and you give double that, I'll publish in lesser number of days." So these were happening, and I think fortunately such a number of such journals have come down in India recently, and there is duplication of journal titles. So including, for example, Indian Journal of Anaesthesia, there is almost a similarly titled journal which is available, and it will confuse the authors also. So this is their aim, to deceive the authors, and they have succeeded largely. And unfortunately, 3/4 of the authors who submit articles to the predatory journals are from Asia and Africa. So this is reflective of the problem being continued in Asia and Africa also. And there are what are known as hijacked journals, which refer to the creation of counterfeit websites that mimic the website of the legitimate journal for the purpose of soliciting submissions. Then the main aim is to collect the author fees from the authors who believe they are sending their work to the legitimate journal. So the authors are again cheated here. In fact, we have a website called scholarlyoa.com, Scholarly Open Access. That's the abbreviation there. There, one of the research scientists, Beal, has a list of predatory publishers for 2017. It's a huge list. Plus, he has created criteria for determining the predatory open access publishers. Actually, the criteria is very good, but actually, this website currently is not available because there has been, I came to know further that some confusion because some actually useful journals and good journals have been included. They were developed into some controversy and legalities, but overall, all the criteria for determining that some journal is predatory, those details are still available in the internet, and it is very good to see them also. There is some statistics about the predatory journals. If you can see, this is for India only, basically. The number of hijacked journals has gone up from 30 to 150 for 3 years, and for misleading metrics, it is from 26 to 53. So they have also kept on growing, and quality, yes, quantity, both of them come down when over a matter of time. And the worst part is some of these journals will also get indexed in important indexing agencies. And for example, this is an article which talks about inclusion of predatory journals in Scopus, which is inflating the scholars' metrics and advancing careers. So the shortcut has been taken by some of the scholars also. When options are there, why not? So they have picked up this option, and wrongly, some of the poor articles have been included here, and poor journals have been included in Scopus. And another thing which we can see is the ethical issues in publication and poor peer review. So I got at least important 2 of these articles which talk about these ethical issues. And we have seen, and I have seen that our own colleagues from across the country and across the world have been shown as editorial board members for some of these predatory journals. So of course, I know that many of them are also without their consent also. And peer review is definitely poor. I have seen submissions where a submission which contains about 20 tables and graphs and that particular article submission is about 20 pages long, is straight away published as an open access article. There is no peer review, there is no limitation of word count, there is no limitation of whatever is important for a particularly standardized journal is not available. So these are the unfortunate outcomes of these predatory journals. And this is a very surprising finding here. This is picked up from Anaesthesiology, published in 2019. This is specific to anesthesiology. If you can see the USA. So if we can see the USA, 60% of the predatory open access anesthesiology journals were basically from USA. If you can see this red part, and if you look at India, it is the immediate next slab, 13%. 13% is the contribution from the predatory open access journals for anesthesiology. It is 60% in USA, and rest of the globe is approximately 10% based on the data that they could gather. So India can be taken as the vice capital next to USA in terms of the predatory journals being published. And of course, it could be our own colleagues who have submitted to the predatory journals published in USA also. And just on the lighter side, this particular article published in Anaesthesia Analgesia, a very high impact journal of anesthesiology, they tried to locate the publisher's address. So they have taken the photograph of based upon the Google map and the 3D street view. Two of the addresses were pharmacies. So these are the two pharmacies which are shown as addresses of the publishers, and one was a football field, one was a thoroughfare, an open ground. So these were the addresses of the publishers. Of course, we have heard about similar reports in India also, being publications being there with an one-man army, one person managing in a single room. So it has also been reported in India. So there is high time that we have to have some control, quality control of open access publications. So we cannot leave them to be predatory journals and they earning money, but also cheating the potential authors. So all of us know we have got indexing for some of the open access journals with PubMed Central and DOAJ. That's very good because they have got very strictly entered editorial policies. They have got technical specifications for applying journals. They check for editorial board being well streamlined and working with at least 2 peer reviews per article. And all those things are done. So there is no problem with some of the established journal and the repositories in the PubMed Central and DOAJ. That's never a problem. But problem is with other journals which are still not of good quality. And luckily, if you in India, the number of registered DOAJ journals, the journals registered in Directory of Open Access Journals from India has come down in the last 10 years, which actually reflects tighter indexing process by DOAJ. So this is very important that they have created some conditions for indexing also. And second problem is, all of us would agree, even many of our colleagues across the country would even now will not know exactly what is indexing, what is this so-called indexation, and what are the indexing agencies which are recognized by NMC. So there has been some ignorance. I will not blame anybody, but that has been a systematic failure and hope that improves in the future also. And in fact, DOAJ seal is a new agreement system where stringent measures are available for individual journals so that they meet the technical standards of publishing as per DOAJ. And fortunately, there is an open access scholarly publishing association, OASPA, which is very useful to guide the publishers, editors, referees, researchers about the standards of professional conduct of open access publishing. So this is available now, and all of us can go through this. And there has to be very important discussion among the stakeholders of open access publishing to see that these standards are maintained. So this is in addition to what we talk about the COPE criteria for ethics. We talk about VIMS and International Medical Editors Association. So these are the various things. But specifically for open access publication, we have got this specific code of ethics which is published, and we have to follow all these things. And it also adds details about the benefits, mechanisms, support systems, copyright, and everything required for open access publication. There is one more important, concept or an actual application of a program called Plan S. Plan S or Coalition S, where this OA represents open access. So this is a endeavor to make all research papers free to access, possibly by 2024. So this is a initiative from Europe, basically, wherein there is a participation from the European Research Council and the European Commission, where it talks of a consortium of European funders led by the European Research Committee, which was launched in 2018. It has 11 agencies, which used to spend together approximately $8.8 billion per year in research grants annually. So these agencies came together so that they can pursue the open access for the data and the publication, which were derived from these research projects, which are funded from the Europeans. So this S in this plan may be taken as to stand for science or speed or solution or shock. So it's called Plan S or Coalition S, where O and A stand for open access. So this was a plan, very ideal plan they created. And in fact, they also reached out to Europe. It was not a small body. The European, one of the important European Parliament members was the leader. He even went to USA to discuss with Americans whether this can be implemented in America also. So what they decided to do was to see whether all the grant funders would see that the grant recipients would submit their article to open access journals only, and they will deposit their article in a repository. And it was a deadline they gave from January 1st, 2020 onwards. But there are some drawbacks and limitations which I will take up in the next slide. And they would also want the deposition of these articles in certain open access repositories also. We've got a lot of open access repositories outside of the PubMed Central and the DOAJ, which are also indexing agencies. They are, one example is Genodo, second example is Figshare and others, where you can just deposit our article, published article. So that's also possible. So they tried USA also, but it went into problem gradually, because to the extent they decided on controlling their own researchers to whom they have supported with grants, 85% of the journals will not be accessible to these researchers, because high quality researchers, majority of them would get published in Nature and Science, okay, and they are not open access journals overall, even though some open access formats have been issued now, but that at the time of decision by this body, they are not open access. So if they same, the researchers will not be able to publish in 85% of these research journals. And subsequent to this plan, the most important, I talked about the European Research Council. The European Research Council itself has withdrawn from this group. And within the European countries also, they have started taking independent decisions, and there has been not much progress. So in fact, what happened was Germany had a deal with Nature. Okay, the Nature journal publishers, they decided and agreed upon to publish 400 open access articles from Germany in Nature journal at a cost of $11,200 per article. And in fact, this is said to be the highest price ever paid for an open access article. So look at the arrangements, whether it is a market, it is a government, or who decided on this and who gets benefited, we don't know. So definitely the publisher gets benefited, Nature gets benefited, or the government wanted the research to be published in the quality journal because of their nationalistic attitude. So we don't know, but it is very costly. So this was a setback for the Plan S. And in fact, India was also approached. Basically, so initially India did not agree. In 2019, early 2019, India said it will not want to join. But subsequently, it is said that the India has decided to join the Plan S. Okay, so that Indian articles, Indian research output can also be published in the various open access journals only. They were very happy, basically, when India agreed to participate, because India is the third largest producer of science and engineering articles as of 2018 at this point of time. and it had more than 1,35,000 documents for publication. And India, by the around the 2018 to 19, was spending about 15 billion rupees per year or $200 million per year to access research articles across the country. Of course, various institutions, private institutions, central institutions, medical, engineering, whatever, software, all the engineering or medical or science institutions would buy up to $15 billion of journals per year. So imagine what would happen if India joins this group. So by around 12th February, India announced the joining of the Plan S. But then I said there was a big boost when the membership in terms of the publication was only about 8% of the total. The moment India announced, the numbers went up, it will go to 30%. If ESA would join later on, it would definitely go beyond 60%. So that was the plan by that group. But unfortunately, it has, I think there are some problems. As I said, European Research Council has withdrawn, Germany has withdrawn, and many of the countries are trying to do their own. So that's a problem. But another thing which was discussed about 2 years ago was one nation, one subscription from the government of India. It was a plan from the Department of Science and Technology and the principal scientific advisor to the government of India, who said, let us buy subscription for all the users in India from a centralized level, so that we save money, so that we bargain with the publishers, bring down the cost, so that useful or the research outcomes and the articles are accessible to all the scientists across India. That was the important decision. And the target was for authors to archive their accepted manuscripts in public online repositories also. The green approach, green open access approach, basically. But again, there are some reservations now, and the government post-COVID has not taken forward the decision because of the obvious factors, and whether the publishers will agree to the charges and the logistics in a huge country like India. So having the third highest number of research publications and submissions, okay, whether publishers, big-time publishers, agree to give the logistical service, number one, and whether the charges, which will run into billions of dollars, would it be possible for them to negotiate with India. So this is the problem, and whether the government will provide for article processing charges or authorship. This is also a problem. So this has to wait for some more time. And now coming back to the open access platform, I said DOAJ and PubMed, some of their, and of course, INMED has gone to some issues now, or medical publications in India. But most useful has been the Directory of Open Access Journals. It's a leading platform which adheres to the principles of transparency and best practice publication. In fact, its searches yield better output than Scopus and Web of Science currently, especially those related to Africa, Asia, and South America. This is very important. So many of us would fail to find mention in other searches, important searches, including PubMed. But it is possible to have that from Africa, Asia, and South America in the Web of Science and Scopus, where we submit to DOAJ. And some disciplines, including from our biomedical sciences group, are also better represented in DOAJ than in other databases. So this advantage is there. But still, there is some lacunae. It lacks some of the very fine-tuned advanced search filters, which you find in PubMed, and it's available very nicely. So those filters are not available in NLM, but they are gradually improving. And in India, we have got a small data with respect to the open access publications. 55% are in the green open access type, and 45% are in the gold open access type. And all of us should also remember is funding is sparse. Even if I want to submit an article, my institution doesn't support me. We have to pay from our own pockets. So imagine for it's not so cheap. Even for Indian open access journals, I know the costs are between 7, 8, 10, 20, 30,000 like this. It's not easy and it's not cheap. But however, all of us are gradually becoming aware of the actual system, the predatory journals and all, and where to submit. And last but not the least is about the Sci-Hub. Dr. Kotur sir was mentioning about this. You must salute this lady, Alexandra Ilbakian. She is from Kazakhstan. In fact, she was a software engineer. She worked in Europe and USA and everywhere. She found that there was lack of access to many of the scientific articles across the field, different fields. So she created this library website in September 2011. In fact, in 2019, the number of requests for download was almost 4 lakhs per day. And as of January 10, 2022, it had a collection of almost 9 crore of articles from across the world, which represented 95% of the articles with the DOJ. And in fact, she had to struggle a lot with respect to the even legalities. There were cases against her in Europe, in different countries, against her in USA, and even in India. In 2020, Elsevier filed a case against her in Delhi High Court. I think there was gave some stay for this particular case, as happens in India normally. So it's good that the case has not been taken forward in India. And she is such an influential economist, should thank her. In fact, later said among the top 10 people who mattered in science was Alexandra Ilbakian. So we are waiting for government of India. We are waiting for institutions to see that subscriptions improve.
Okay.
I think sir got disconnected, sir.
Yeah, and I've been trying to tell him. Yeah, it was good. He got disconnected.
He got disconnected, sir. He's not in the meeting.
Towards the end, there was some.
Actually, his slide stopped moving because there was low bandwidth was coming. Now he has come back. Dr. Bala? Hello?
Not yet connected. Not yet connected. Yeah.
His video is
Dr.
not
Bhaskar.
on. He's there, but Dr. Bala Bhaskar S is there. But yet to connect
We'll
audio.
to take some questions now.
So we can take, but he is not connected to audio now, sir.
No, we'll tell him to take. Yeah.
Over the phone, we can check.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
I think how many slides are there?
Hello?
Hello?
Your slides
Yes,
started,
sir.
they stopped moving since long. Now, you conclude my question. Hello?
Bala, you're in the meeting. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just now we are able to hear. Actually, you were talking about Science Hub and you said that we need to be eternally grateful to that lady. And that's where we lost you, I think, both audio and video. Sir, there are a lot of interesting questions in the chat box and there is some, this thing. Would we take the questions now, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. That first, before that, one small feedback. Last slide we saw was slide number 105. Actually, I never thought that I was sitting through a presentation which had that many slides. It was so very seamless and very nicely communicated and articulated. Thank you very much for that. The other thing one quirky observation which came to my mind was, you were talking about this updates from the Budapest Forum. And you said the next update is expected on 14th February, Valentine's Day. Maybe they love us and they will tell us, okay, I'm going to make everything free for all of you. So go enjoy kind of thing. Maybe that is just on the lighter note. The two,
Yeah.
three things which are there in the chat box, and one Dr. Shri Pada is extremely active. He has put a lot of questions in the chat box. The first question was put by me only. I wanted to
Yes.
ask the stop subscription strategy. Has it been ever practiced anywhere in academic institutions? And one response has come from Dr. Shri Prada. He says that UC withdrew the subscription. I'm not sure what is UC, University College. I don't know. So is there any college which has
Okay.
withdrawn this subscriptions as a part of this open access strategy, or it is only like something which can be done?
So from what I understand is, madam, I could not get it, but what you probably meant was the open access strategy by the institutions.
No, sir. You said one of the ways in which we can promote open access is stop subscription for the published journals and the traditional journals.
Yeah.
So there was a slide which said that. So I just wanted to know, is this the radical move has been practiced anywhere in the academic institutions?
So these have been only sporadically followed. That is, these are some of them are idealistic things which was proposed by the Budapest group. But there is no harm in discussing. Mainly when we say that the important indexing agencies, even Medline, beyond PubMed Central, it's also possible that some journals can go to Medline plus PubMed Central also. So it's openly accessible for everybody to see it. What I mean is, for example, the National Medical Council includes DOAJ as one of the recognized indexing agencies. It's definitely there. And we should not be targeting journal which is otherwise indexed in, for example, you say I want it in Medline or the PubMed per se. If it is available in the repository of DOAJ and if it is indexed in DOAJ, and if DOAJ is not, it's an online thing, it is open for everybody. Access is open for everybody. There is no need to subscribe to the journal except that you pay for the APC. The author fees you have to pay. So that way, the institution has to decide by itself. The academicians within the institution have to decide that why should I be submitting to Nature? Why should I be submitting to a journal which is only part of Medline with high impact factor? Why would I go to all the American journals and British journals? So it's a radical shift, but it is left to us as academicians. And one of the slides I showed that we should pick up an article by its merit wherever it is published. If the quality of the research is good, of course, peer reviewing has to be perfect, and it is published in a journal of even low impact factor, that article should be recognized for appointment and promotion from within the institutions also. That's the take home with respect to the trying to promote publication in open access.
Okay, that is a very nice, or would say, rational view of things. But unfortunately, many things in life are not very rational. That is what.
Yeah,
So you
Dr. Shipad,
clarified the doubt regarding NMC acceptability of open access journals. I think that was one of the questions. But there is another question from Dr. Sri Prada. He says that Sri Pada, I'm sorry, open access journals are often multi-speciality journals. So this NMC or similar bodies don't recognize articles published in multi-speciality journals as your for promotion, especially. How to overcome this?
Yeah, there is some confusion regarding this, but as far as my knowledge goes, it is recognized by the NMC. So
Subjective.
yeah, so NMC has
Subjective to the inspector.
Yeah, subject specialty wise. So initially again, NMC said that publication must be in the same specialty journal. Okay, so if I am from anesthesiology, I must submit a journal to a journal of anesthesiology or critical care emergency medicine, but I should not be doing in some other journal which is of broad specialty. Okay, but that clause has been removed from the NMC. It can be published in any of the listed indexed journal systems only. There is no need to focus on the individual specialty per se. But basically what we should understand is there is some disparity in inferring the rules of the NMC amongst the inspectors of NMC itself, for which we cannot comment too much.
Okay. That brings us to one question which actually I was having in mind when you showed that one association for open access publication, not association, some kind of online forum. So we keep teaching about research ethics, publication ethics, and all that. I think it's high time that we should include this also in the responsible conduct of research workshops, because the knowledge about open access publication is not something which is very common across the board. What do you think of this suggestion, sir?
Yeah, definitely, because that's what I suggested. We straight away talk about ICMJE, the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. We talk about BAM. We talk about the COPE. When we talk about the standardization in terms of publication process and ethics involved, that was largely more focused upon the traditional methods of publication. Now, specifically, this new body, and it is well recognized and appreciated also, which talks about the code of conduct for open access journals. So I told you it is OASPA, Open Access Scholarly Publishing Association. It is taken seriously and it gives multiple other opinions. It's not just purely about the publication aspect, the intricacies of open access publication. It has got multiple, around 10 sub-statements. It makes a lot of statements about open access field also. And it's high time, as you say, we should be going into this particular field, get ourselves used to the system and then teach others also. That something like this is there and we should follow it up also. Surely.
Thank you, sir. Another
Dr. Bhaskar, we are talking so much about all these publishers, quality, etc. We are forgetting the author. If you try to find out why anybody publishes an article or writes an article, then you will get the answer. Based on that, without reading it, you can judge the quality. See, if an ardent researcher very excited to let know his findings to the community, that is a wonderful thing. But unfortunately, here the picture is entirely different. Why anybody writes an article? I am talking about the medical research. It is only for this for the sake of promotions and adopt all shortcuts and the poor quality. That is the problem. The picture is very much you can messy. Unless that kind of awareness or self reasoning, self accountability comes for these writers or authors, nothing can be done. And of course, that is true. The publishers, like somebody grows mangoes, the person who eats more money is the in-between vendor. Somebody does a research and publishes in the Elsevier, they have put 15 million this one recovery for that lady, with a leg, and they have practically filed the case in almost all countries across the world. Elsevier mainly. So it's all a very thing. But anyway, something good has happened, sir, in the last.
Actually, just to respond to you, sir. In terms of authors, actually, it has benefited a lot of authors from middle and lower income countries. The open access.
Yes.
Basically, because as you told when you were introducing the topic in the beginning, even at this point of time, it is very difficult for many of the Indian journals to even get into PubMed Central.
Yes.
Okay, I will not
ask Dr. Mahalakshmi. We are interviewing just 1 hour back. One person presented, and he said he has published one article. Yes, very good.
Yes, sir.
What is the name of the journal? The person doesn't know the name. Got only one publication. He says he has published. I simply asked him which journal. He doesn't know. So that is the attitude and mentality of the authors here. Very.
So it's that's the way.
Yeah. It's a way you were saying it is a very murky system now, sir. I would say it is more like a mafia, sir, rather than anything else. Because all the indexing agencies are not indexing. Regulatory agencies are more and more focusing on, if you don't publish, you don't exist as a professional. That has become the norm in the country now. All our other achievements, which you do day to day, your patient care activities or your academic input or your intellectual contribution to the thing, or how you move with this, all that is not contributed except how much you research and how much you publish. Not even how much you research or how well you do. It's only how much you publish.
In fact, Dr. Shripad Mahendale has talked about University of California withdrawing subscription to Elsevier. So these are the bold moves Definitely, when somebody decides to do, it has to come from the bigger institutions, because they are the ones who will be able to put some pressure on the big time publishers. If one of our colleges doesn't buy, nothing happens to them. That's the way it is. And of course, we have had bad times. I am very optimistic. As Sir was telling, we had the predatory journals, especially 2 years ago. Luckily, 2 years ago, NMC became stricter. So there was we can talk about it. There is no problem. Index Copernicus was not expected to be a very good indexing agency at that point of time, because it gave indexation to multiple poor journals. And we have seen during promotions and during appointments or during MCI inspection visits, some of the applicants will show publication, 4 publication in a single issue of the journal.
Yes, yes.
So unfortunately these have happened. So we must be very careful and guard against these things, and goes.
What Dr. Bhatt has to say? Dr. Bhatt, our director of research, he's quiet. Dr. Bhatt?
Yeah, it was a very interesting and informative talk. But in the open access, probably we are putting penalty on the writer or the publisher, because he has to pay money anyhow. Although it becomes open for others, people have to pay money. So as you rightly said, the cost of publishing has gone up very sharply. So that is one of the probably the disadvantage of this. Although it is more visible.
Open access has been approaching various medical colleges, and for one article, 1,500 pounds. Who will pay? In fact, they had approached the Dr. But AVMC also, that one representative. You remember, we didn't entertain them. First, I was excited. Then naming the name, brand, VMJ. Then you go into the Dept, and then I said, 1,500 pounds for one article. You give any garbage, they will produce, publish.
Yes, sir. They were there in Rajiv Gandhi University also 2 years ago. So as you said, I thought there is a very useful academic, interlink for us. When I went and heard, at the end I told our bosses there, sir, it should not be taken forward.
Yeah.
And this time also, publishing time also not reduced much. These open access journals take a very long time. Sometimes 6 months, sometimes 1 year. They keep on going round and round. So many of the articles, it has not reduced the time.
Very interesting discussions, but I'm sorry to cut through because we are nearing the end of our time. And we would like to thank Dr. Bala Bhaskar for a fantastic lecture, and that too on a very difficult and not
that many slides were not
topic.
there. No, just to interrupt, that many slides were not there. I had hidden 30 slides in that.
Okay. I didn't know, sir. I was seeing the number in the right lower corner, and the last number I saw was 103. So it was very seamless transition. That's what I would say, because you moved excellently. And if I were to see the comments in the chat box, we have to thank one of our participants, Dr. Sripada, for active participation in his puts lot of comments and questions and answers in the chat box also. And there is a lot of interesting there are comments thanking you for an excellent and informative talk. On behalf of the Scientific Society of AVMC and FFF team, I would like to thank you. And for the benefit of participants, we would like to say that we'll stick on to this theme of going beyond quality assurance for some more time. And the next talk we'll move from some very technical area into something which is more basic. We are going to talk about quality in primary care services. Can we look at how we are organizing and how we are delivering primary care services, and how this can be measured? And we have an interesting speaker for the occasion. It is Dr. Sonu Goyal. He is a professor of community medicine from the PGI Institute of Chandigarh. So he will be talking to us next Friday on quality assurance in primary healthcare services. So that is the talk for you next week, folks. So I hope you would be able to join us next week. Until then, stay safe and use mask, follow social distancing, wash your hands. And with that, we would complete today's session. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Dr. Bala Bhaskar, for the session.
Thank you.
Live streaming.